Hi guys. Okay, it's Friday, so that means that I get to do our Fun Friday Science Read Aloud. I hope you guys had a good week, and I hope that you take the time today to rest and play and have fun with your families. And just appreciate all the hard work you guys have put in. I miss you, and I wish I was there to hug you and high five you, and just know that I am here cheering you on, okay? So here we go with our science book, Bright Strange Science Planet Earth. And I thought it would be cool today to talk about somewhere else on my bucket list, right? It is the Great Salt Lakes, but we're gonna talk about Salt Lakes in general, okay? So the Great Salt Lakes are in Utah, and we're gonna watch a little video over that after I read about Salt Lakes here. I don't know if you've ever heard of Salt Lakes or not, but anyway, we're going to learn about it today. And then I thought it would be cool also to go to Mystery Doug, because he has a call-in question about why the oceans are salty. So since we all want to be on a beach somewhere right now, and it's a good time to dream and make a bucket list of your own and learn about different places, there are also places that, or ways online that you can tour the Great Salt Lake. They have like virtual tours going right now, so I'll try to post some links to that as well. But anyway, I thought it would be a good time to learn about Salt Lake. Okay, so if I want to know what page Salt Lake starts on, what text feature can I use in my book? Right, the table of contents. So the table of contents is here, and then I just go down to where it says Salt Lakes, which would be there, and then I go across and it tells me it starts on page 32. So that's where I'm going now. If there is a term that I don't understand in this book and I can't make it out using the context, which means the words that are surrounding the word, right, the sentence that the word is in, if I can't figure out what it means based on the sentence surrounding it, then I can look in a handy dandy glossary. The glossaries are found in the back of the book. They have the words and the definitions of the words. And then if I'm looking at something and I'm like, oh gosh, I wonder where it talks about the Great Barrier Reef in this book, or if it talks about it, I can look in the index and look in the G's, and where it says Great Barrier Reef, there's a page number there. So an index is also in the back of the book behind the glossary, but it just shares a page number of a topic. The glossary is in the back of the book, and it gives you definitions of the words. And the words are usually, there's another text feature within this glossary, which is bold print. So the words that are being defined are in bold print. Just a little refresher for you on your text features. I know we talked about them a lot this year, but you'll need them moving forward. Okay, so Salt Lakes, here we go. It's kind of like the A is in the crack of this book, so you can't really see it, but that's what it says. Looks like Salt Lakes. Okay, what is a salt lake? A salt lake is an inland body of water with a salt content or salinity of at least 3%. So salinity, that just means the level of salt. Okay, so if it's 3% or higher, then it's considered a salt lake. Oceans have an average salinity of about 3.5%. Amazingly, much of Earth's lakes contain much more salt than the ocean. Did you guys know that? Some lakes on the Earth contain more salt than the ocean. But when we think of salt water, typically we just think of the ocean, right? Okay, so let's see here. Amazingly, many of Earth's lakes contain much more salt than the ocean. Because of that, they are often places of unusual beauty. How do some lakes become so salty? To understand, think about what would happen if you left a small pan of slightly salty water outside all day in the hot sun. What do you think would happen if you had a pan of salty water and you stuck it outside in the hot sun and you left it out there all day? Think about it. What happens to water when the sun is really hot and you leave it out in the sun? It evaporates, right? So let's read on. Some of the water would dry up or evaporate, leaving the salt behind. As you added more slightly salty water, it too would evaporate, leaving behind even more salt. So does the salt evaporate with the water? It leaves salt behind, right? So then when all the water is evaporated, what's left in the pan? Salt. So then you pour more salt water in and you leave it outside, and then that water evaporates, and then there's even more salt that's left. So the salt is just piling up. As you add more salt, slightly salty water, it too would evaporate, leaving behind even more salt. In this way, the water would become saltier and saltier. Lake water also evaporates, and it also is usually replaced by water flowing in from freshwater streams and rivers. As these rivers and streams rush along, they wear away rocks and minerals in their paths. And in the form of sand, mud, and dissolved minerals, this often salty material is washed into the lake. In a freshwater lake, much of this material is eventually flushed out through rivers or streams that flow away from the lake. However, when the normal channel of outflow is cut off, the concentration of salt builds up. So here we have some pictures. So this kind of, it's a little blurry. I wish it wasn't, but it kind of explains here. It says, river brings minerals to the lake. River stops flowing and the water level drops. Evaporation increases the concentration of minerals, which of this mineral that we're talking about is salt, right? Over time, water from the lake's surface evaporates, leaving the minerals behind. The lake gets saltier and saltier. This is how the largest salt lake in the United States, the Great Salt Lake of Utah, formed. It is all that is left of a huge body of water called Lake Bonneville that about 13,000 years ago covered an area twice the size of Vermont. The Great Salt Lake's salinity level is about 22%. So if you remember, the salinity, the level of salt in the ocean is like 3.5%. Well, here it tells us the Great Salt Lake salinity level is about 22%, which is about 6 times saltier than the ocean. If you've ever been to the ocean and gotten like salt in your mouth, it is disgusting, okay? It tastes so terrible, but could you even imagine? I mean, it would be like just dumping salt right in your mouth, I think. I don't even know. I haven't been there, but it's on my list. Okay, freshwater springs beneath the surface of a salt lake, such as Munroe Lake in California, may bubble up into it. Dissolved minerals in the spring and lake water then combine to form a hard, crusty material called tufa. The tufa forms into fantastic shapes, and when the water level of lakes drop, these ragged tufa formations are exposed. They look like bizarre castles standing in the salty water. Isn't that amazing? That's probably what this is. Let's see what this caption says. Yes, tufa formations at Munroe Lake. See how I use that text feature of a caption right there to know what this picture was about or what's in the picture? That is cool. I have always wondered how those are formed. That's amazing. Okay, so here we have a couple maps, the Great Salt Lake here, and it shows that it's in Utah, right? It shows these rivers, or well, this is Lake Powell, this is a Colorado River, the Green River, Utah Lake, Lake Bonneville 16,000 years ago, and Great Salt Lake right here. Okay, and then we have another map over here. What does it show? Yeah, sorry. The Mediterranean Sea. Okay, we must be about to learn about Middle East a little bit. Let's see. I bet it talks about it right here, in the Sea of Doom. So we have a little info fact box over here. It says Sea of Doom with a salt content of 28%. So the Great Salt Lake is 22%. Remember, an ocean is 3.5%, 3.5%, not even 4%. So this is saltier. This sea that we're learning about right here is saltier than even the Great Salt Lakes, okay? It says with a salt content of 28%, the Dead Sea between Israel and Jordan in the Middle East is the world's saltiest lake. Why do you think it's called the Dead Sea? Let's see. The lake is so salty that fish traveling from freshwater rivers into the sea die within moments. So these fish are swimming along in rivers, and then if they end up in the Dead Sea, right, then they die because of the level of salinity, how much salt is in the water. So this is because the tremendous change in salinity upsets a freshwater fish internal water balance. Their bodies can't handle it. Okay, now this is a really cool fact that I want you to pay attention to down here. Are you ready? It says, extra, read all about it. Floating in a lake is an unlikely way to read a newspaper. Still, the waters of the Dead Sea, what we just talked about here, right? The waters of the Dead Sea are so dense with salt and minerals that it is nearly impossible to sink in them. A person could relax and read the newspaper without getting wet. Could you guys even imagine that? Oh my gosh, like you wouldn't even sink. You just float because there's so much salt and the water is so dense. So anyway, there's that, a little tidbit of information about the salt lakes and how salt deposits build up and how these lakes become so salty. So let's see now. I'm going to share my screen with you here. What am I doing? Okay, share my screen. And I'm going to show you first this video. What makes Great Salt Lake so salty? Or what makes the Great Salt Lake so great, I guess. We know it's salty, so why is it great, right? Okay, I'm going to turn up my volume here so it's up on yours, and then I will play this video.
Great Salt Lake. Covering 1,700 square miles, it's the largest American lake west of the Mississippi and the biggest saltwater lake in the Western Hemisphere. What makes Great Salt Lake so unique is that its water is up to 5 times saltier than the ocean, too salty to support fish and most other aquatic life. The lake is considered a terminal lake, which means there's no outlet. Small amounts of salt in the rivers and streams that flow into it build up over time. With nowhere for the water in the lake to go, it evaporates in the hot Utah sun, leaving vast deposits of salt behind. In some places, the water is so salty that people can float, just like they do in the Dead Sea, except that they're here in the middle of the Utah desert. Evaporation also keeps the lake shallow. It's possible to wade 1/4 of a mile out into water and still only be up to your knees. But even with all this salt, wildlife thrives on the lake shores, especially here on Antelope Island. Despite the name, the island is actually a home for bison. Herders brought 12 bison to Antelope Island in 1897. Today, it's home to a 550-strong herd. Parts of the Great Salt Lake may remain wild, but more and more, humans are leaving their mark on this water body. Brine ponds established at the lake's edge capture a host of minerals for industrial use. But environmentalists fear that changes like this are inflicting long-term damage on Great Salt Lake.
Okay, so that was just a cool video to show you like some footage of the lake, which I thought was really neat. I liked at the end how it talked about how when humans started to industrialize the land, which means to like do business there and start making roads and I'm so sorry, my computer is frozen, I think. Okay, anyway, when we started to move in, then it affects the wildlife. So kind of like on Earth Day, when we talked about how what we do to take care of the earth affects, or how we live affects the earth and ways that we can take care of it. So everything that we do has an effect, right? A cause and effect, like we talked about at school. So anyway, I thought it was neat. It's interesting to consider how we can affect something so huge. It would seem like we were powerless, but you actually, by making choices to protect the earth, then you help. So anyway, I'm not sure what I'm saying now, but okay, I love you guys. Here we go. We are gonna watch this and let Mystery Doug do the talking since Mrs. Munroe is a little, I need some more coffee today. So anyway, why is the ocean salty? Are you guys ready? Here we go.
Hi, it's Doug. I didn't grow up anywhere near an ocean, but now as an adult, I live not far from one. That's the Pacific Ocean behind me. And I can tell you, if you've never been swimming in the ocean and accidentally gotten a mouthful of ocean water, it's so salty tasting. Now, it's never a great idea to drink any kind of water directly from an ocean or lake. There can be germs in it. But you can try ocean water for yourself at home by taking a few teaspoons of salt and dissolving it in a glass of water. Give it a try. Ugh. Someone named Allie has a question about the ocean. Let's give her a call now.
Hi, Doug.
Hi, Allie.
I have a question for you. Why is the ocean salty?
That's a great question. One thing that's really weird is why the oceans are salty, but other water, like lakes and rivers, aren't salty at all. You might know that we call the water in lakes and rivers fresh water. Not that you can drink it directly. You still want to boil it or clean it before drinking. But water from lakes and rivers doesn't taste salty the way the ocean does. In fact, when scientists are studying any of the water that they find on Earth, that's one of the first things they do. They figure out, is it salt water, like from the ocean, or is it fresh water, like from lakes and rivers? So why is the water that's in the ocean different from the water that's in lakes and rivers? Why is the ocean water salty? Did a bunch of salt somehow get dumped into the ocean or something? Do you have any ideas? Why do you think the ocean is salty, but lakes and rivers aren't?
Any guesses? Let's find out.
So why does the water in the ocean have salt in it? I have to tell you, this is a tough mystery to solve. For a long time, very few people had any ideas at all. But today, we do have some ideas based on clues that people like scientists have noticed and discovered. Scientists have developed special tools and equipment that they can use to measure very small amounts of things. And they discovered something really surprising. Even though the water in lakes and rivers is what we consider fresh water, when they tested the water and checked very carefully, they found out that this water actually does have a teeny tiny amount of salt. Not enough to where you'd be able to notice it if you tasted it. But the water in lakes and rivers is a little bit salty, just a little bit. In fact, every place they look, it doesn't matter if it's the tiniest pond or stream, there's still a little tiny bit of salt in the water. There's one exception, and that's this, rainwater. When it rains, that water, the water falling from the sky, has no salt in it at all. Even rain that falls on the ocean, there's zero salt in the raindrops. So rainwater is 100% completely fresh water. But here's the thing. Scientists discovered that once rainwater hits the ground, like when it starts to form puddles, or when it trickles down into streams and rivers, that's when it starts to become a little bit salty. So then there must be something about the ground itself which makes the water in lakes and rivers become just a tiny bit salty. And there is. Geologists are scientists who study the rocks and soil that the ground is made of. They've been able to figure out that most rocks and soil contain tiny amounts of salt. When rainwater lands on the ground, it absorbs some of that salt. As that rainwater trickles into lakes and rivers, it carries this salt with it. This is why water in lakes and rivers has a little tiny amount of salt. But rain itself, when it's falling, has no salt, since it hasn't come in contact with the ground yet. But then why does the water in the ocean have so much more salt than the water in lakes and rivers? That's the big question, a question that scientists who study the ocean still aren't completely sure they know the exact reason. But if you look at a map and you trace your finger along the many rivers you see on the map, you can see that most rivers and even some lakes connect to the ocean. And since rivers and lakes are located on the continents or land, which is higher up than the ocean, the water in the rivers and lakes usually flows down into the ocean. Even though river and lake water only carries a tiny amount of salt, if that water's been flowing for years and years down into the ocean, all that salt that it does carry just keeps getting added to the ocean. over and over, where it probably never leaves. We think this might be one big reason why the ocean is so much more salty than all the other water on Earth. That's all for this week's question. Thanks, Allie, for asking it. The world is filled with incredible wonders. Before you vote on next week's question, we put together some surprising things about salt that we'd love to show you. Take a look inside, or if you don't have time, you can skip straight to voting.
Ooh, let's do it. Open bonus. Mystery Doug's top 5 surprising things about salt.
Number 5.
Oh, this is what we talked about. This water is so salty that people float in it without even trying. Do you think something really heavy will float? Check it out. Even with a heavy rock on top of him, this person can still float. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Don't you guys want to go there and do that? Except I think they might be in the, I'm not sure where they're at, the Middle East maybe? Or maybe you can at the Great Salt Lakes. Okay, this says salt can help other things float too. Try this. Drop an egg in water and it sinks. Add salt to the water and it floats. Oh my gosh. You guys, that is something you could try at home. If you have some salt and water, you can ask your families to do that. That is so cool. Same effect on people as it does on that egg. You know that farmers raise animals or grow plants, but salt farms exist too. What do you think these look like? Hint, if salt water dries up, evaporates, it leaves salt behind like this. Does this give you any ideas? What do you think salt farms look like then? Here is a salt farm. When ocean water dries up, salt is left behind. The salt in your kitchen comes from here. That is amazing. I did not know that. Did you guys know that? Wow, I'm learning so much today. Okay, did this start?
Number
There
3.
we go. All of these animals are licking rocks. Why do you think they're doing this? What is on the rocks? Look at them all, how cute. Look at those. Oh my gosh. What do you think's on the rocks? They're licking salt off of rocks. Animals and people need some salt to survive. A farmer gave this lamb a salt block. How cute. Look at that little lammy licking on that salt block.
Number 2.
Sorry if you guys can hear Juno screaming in the background. Wow, check out this pink lake in Australia. This lake has tons of salt in it, but why would a salty lake be pink? Any ideas? I have no idea. Look at the water under a microscope. See the tiny pink creatures? Ugh! They love salt and make the water look pink. Oh no, thank you. That is some salt water I would not be floating in, right? That is very crazy.
And now, the last one.
Okay, what kind of birds are these? Oh, we know this. You've seen them before, but something seems different. Why are they not pink, right? They're all the way pink. They're flamingos. Their feathers only turn pink if they eat a certain thing. Can you guess what they eat? Oh, you guys might know this. Flamingos eat the tiny pink creatures that love salt. So salt gives us bright pink flamingos. That's amazing. Thanks for watching. Okay, I'm gonna stop.
Now, for the next episode,
no.
I reached into my question jar and picked out 3 questions submitted to me that
I gotta stop. Okay, now here we go. Okay, you guys, this one was pretty long, but I think really cool and interesting. I love learning about things that are actually out there in the world. So anyway, I love you guys and I miss you and I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.